What's up, everyone? Welcome into Big Fight Breakdown on ProBox TV. I'm Chris Algieri, and as always, Paulie Malignaggi is here with me, and we have some great guests today. We have Matt Christie of Boxing Scene and the champ, Dalton Smith. Welcome, guys. Thanks for taking the time to sit and chat with us. Dalton, you have a big fight coming up, Alberto Puello. That fight has been announced. How you feeling going into this fight? How do you feel about the matchup? This is one of those fights that it just makes sense, it seems like, because Puello had a really tough fight with Matias. Obviously, you stopped Matias to win the title, so this guy gets the next in line. Sometimes meritocracy does work in our sport. What's your feelings about this fight and matchup?
Yeah, first of all, good talking to you, brother. Watch you for many years, but yeah, big fight announced against Puello, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Big homecoming. I'm just gonna move this camera. Big homecoming. Um, he's no stranger to us, Puello. He's looking at him before. When him and Matias was fighting. So we've studied him quite a bit, and I think it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, Dalton, he's never really been beaten one-sidedly. He's always given tough accounts of himself. He's got some good wins. He has a win over Gary Antoine Russell, who's a current champion in your weight class. What are your thoughts on him stylistically? Things you offhand. Obviously, there's still a camp and there's still a lot of preparation to go. But what are your thoughts of him offhand, stylistically, in terms of the way you want to handle him?
Yeah, I think he's a great fighter. He's two-time world champion, and everybody who's close and knows me, they know I love an awkward southpaw. I always used to do well against him in the amateurs. I fought 6 or 7 as a professional. So, it's a fight I'm excited for. People struggle against southpaws, but for me, I seem to do well with them. And, that's why I'm excited for it. I believe, I'd be able to find weaknesses in his style. Not many people have done up to now.
Yeah, Matt, what's the feeling over there in the UK? And this is going to be in Sheffield. What's the talk of the town about this fight?
I mean, first of all, Dalton, I haven't spoke to you since you won the belt. Congratulations! I think your career so far has been executed absolutely to perfection so far. So congratulations for that. There's always been a great deal of excitement about Dalton Smith since the moment he turned professional. There was always that feeling that he was going to be one of those prospects that you're being told is going to rule the world, and when you're being told that, you were believing it. I mean, I know Sean quite well, who's in your management team, Dalton, and he's obviously he's been singing your praises for such a long time. But yeah, I mean, this particular fight, it's an excellent matchup. It's a tough first defense, and given what you had to do to win the title out in New York, and then you've got this tough opponent in your first defense, I think it speaks to you as a fighter and your ambition. And can I just ask you, Dalton, how much has your life changed, or how much has that reflection in the mirror changed since you can say you're world champion?
Yeah, life's got a little bit busier. There's a lot more eyes, but it's part of the parcel. I've got a good team around me. I'll always make sure I've got my feet on the ground, and this is everything I've worked towards from being 5, 6 years old, and I'm at the pinnacle of boxing. So I can't take my eye off the ball, and I need to capture every moment.
Yeah, Dalton, you had to go to New York to fight Matias, and which is, for any Puerto Rican fighter, that's kind of like their backyard. So now you're actually going to get to go home and defend at home. What does that mean for you to be close to home and to defend your belt?
Yeah, I think to go and win a world title overseas, especially in the States, for us English people, is the best way to do it. And then come home, have a big homecoming. And I just think the way, obviously, I won the title, we had this, everything against us, obviously the failed drug test and stuff. And I just know coming back home with the belt, I'll have a big homecoming, and I'm excited to put on a big performance for them.
Yeah, and you'll be fighting in Sheffield. I can remember Kell Brook winning the title against Sean Porter in the U.S. and then going back home with it. So it's a similar trajectory there as well. Dalton, you're a big super lightweight. How long do you see yourself staying at this weight class? Obviously, you're a world champion. Sometimes defending the world championship, I've seen guys sort of stick around at a weight class too long because it's the championship that keeps them there now. Not to put thoughts in your head, but I do wonder what your thoughts are on the weight making process, and how far away your future in the welterweight division might be.
Yeah, I can't see myself moving to 147 anytime soon. And
you make it well.
I make it well, make it comfortable, and no fighter makes weight easy.
No,
we always have
it's
to
never fun.
It's never fun. We have his weight cuts, but I do it professionally. I do it safely, and I feel like I've just developed into a big, like an overall 140-pound fighter. So I've come into my prime at the perfect time, and I feel like I'm still not into my prime yet.
Matt, let me ask you. So we want to get Dalton as much, fanfare over here as possible. Tell us about his career, his upbringing, and what the community out there is like when Dalton Smith fights.
There was always a feeling that the one fighter that Dalton would be compared to was Ricky Hatton. There was always that feeling that he could do what Ricky could do. And I think since Ricky kind of retired, that we were always on the lookout for a new Ricky Hatton. And as I said at the top, the way that his professional career has been managed and then executed by Dalton himself is a thing of mastery, even to the point of going out to New York, as you say, in essentially a Puerto Rican's backyard and bringing home the title in a fight that, frankly, not many people thought he'd win. And also, as Dalton himself just touched on as well, there was that kind of failure of the drug test beforehand. A lot of us are screaming, saying, why is this fight being allowed to go ahead? But Dalton just got his head down and was like, I don't care. I'm going to fight for this world title. I'm going to bring it home. And he's made believers out of everyone.
Yeah.
How's that feel,
emphatically? Emphatically.
Yeah. Getting compared to Ricky Hatton, your emphatic victory, man. It's all good things. So I once again, I want the American fans to understand, who you are and how popular you are, and you can make that real run over here like a Ricky Hatton did.
Yeah, God rest his soul. What a legend. He inspired us. The fan base he had going over to the States, and even me fighting in New York, I think it was like 350 Brits there, and he sounded like he was more. So I was surprised the amount what came over to support me. So, if I can have a fraction of Ricky's legacy, I'd be content. And to get compared to him, it's special. Well, I actually remember there's a picture with me and Paulie at Ricky's when he fought Senchenko, his comeback fight. I'll have to find it out.
Yeah, I got to see that one. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was at that fight. That was supposed to be the setup a rematch, and then Senchenko beat him. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, that was it.
That's why they flew me out there. They were going to announce the rematch, and it never happened. Dalton, I'll tell you, I talk about him.
That had to have been what, 12 years ago? 13 years ago?
It was 2000 more. I think it was 2012.
Yeah,
2012. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd been Senchenko earlier.
If I'm 29, do them. Well, I don't know how old I would have been.
Yeah, I got to see that picture. You're a child then, man, in that picture. That's great.
I'll find it out, yeah.
So funny. But Dalton, talk about emphatic victories. I mean, going away and winning that fight by knockout. I'll tell you, I'll be honest, before the fight, I wasn't sure who could win that fight. I couldn't, and I've been known, Chris knows that we've been known to throw it. Couple of bucks on a couple of fights, and I was like, "Dude, this is a tough fight to call, man. I don't know." It was like Dalton's a live guy, so I thought the lock was gonna be, you know what? I'm gonna go safe. I'm gonna go a little heavy on the fight to go over 7.5 rounds. And I remember I was on a flight to Australia, and I couldn't watch the fight. Right, so I'm getting updates from my friend. And I remember my buddy who also put the over 7.5 rounds. We were convinced this fight was going to go over 7.5 rounds, because typically Matias is a durable guy. You can fight. So it's like, it won't be decided early. And I remember getting text messages and he's saying, oh, this is a fast pace. I don't know if Dalton's going to be able to hold it. He's a very fast pace. And I just remember the text message coming through. No. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? He's like, no. I'm like, yo, answer. I'm not watching. What happened? He goes, Dalton just knocked him out. It's over. I'm like, oh, and he was giving me what round it was. I knew it wasn't round 7 or 8. I'm like, oh man, this came out of left field. The stoppage came out of left field. Because a minute before, I'm getting a text message saying, this fight's being carried way too fast, And I'm like, man, I was like, I knew it was your first championship fight. Are you going to start to tire out or something? And then out of nowhere it ended. So that was my experience. In fact, it was an emphatic experience for me as well.
Love it.
Yeah. So it's always different when there's money on the line, right?
Yeah.
Right, Chant? That's right. That's why we play.
But
listen, the weight class right now is super hot. So it's really, I like how the champ asked you about your weight, because that's something that him and I have talked about regarding you, because you are a big 40-pounder. But it's good to hear that you make the weight well and you can defend your title. But there's a lot of big fights at 40 right now. It's a really hot division. Your timing is perfect for that. With a win here against Puello, where are you looking to go next? Because there are some really big names out there.
Yeah, you can't overlook anyone. I always take it one fight at a time. I've got a job to do with Puello first, and then the bigger fights come after that. So, but you look at the division. There's Shakur there, there's Hitchens, and there's some big fights. And I'm, like you said, I'm ring number 1 now. So get a job done here, and then there's some big fights to be made. And I've just got to. My job is to keep my feet on the ground, keep on winning, and I'll be a part of those.
Yeah, there's some good names here, man. Even at 140, people talk about 47 now, starting to get hot. But 40, it's
Duarte, Hitchens,
sharp. Duarte, Hitchens. There's even the Pitbull Cruises of the world. Shakur Teofimo's still around, right? I mean, he's
Teo says he's moving up, but
Teo will be small. I've been in front of Teo in person. He'd be a small 47, so I think he can still make 40. There's a lot of possibilities here at 40, Dalton. You're in a good position, especially as a world champion and as a pretty high profile world champion at that. There's an opportunity here for you to get even and I think there's a lot of fights that are obviously not to overlook Puello, who's never been beaten easily, but there's a lot of fights to grasp here that could be interesting and fun to watch with you involved.
Yeah, I agree.
Matt, what are your thoughts on that piece with the 140-pound division?
You know what I was saying recently? Look, the 140-pound weight class at the moment is one of the hottest in the division at the moment. I think you've got question marks about certain fighters. Are they going to hang around in the 140-pound weight class? There's always that draw, isn't there, when you're at 140 to go up to 147? But at the moment, if everyone sticks around who's currently rated there are some wonderful fights to make. One name we didn't mention, and one, Dalton, forgive me for mentioning him to you yet again, throughout your kind of build up to world championship level, it was always Adam Azim who's being thrown at you. We didn't mention that one.
Yes.
Have you moved on from that now?
That's a big one in the UK.
Yeah, like it's a big fight. We're lucky to, as fighters, to have dance partners, and we've got to take advantage of them. But I've done it the hard way. I've come through the traditional route. I've never skipped anyone, and I've had to prove myself at world level. So, I believe, Adam's got to do that. He's got to prove he's world level, because you can't give no easy shots to anyone when you've done it the hard way.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
There's even Gary Antoine Russell. That's a good fight too, right? At 140.
Yeah,
that's another name we forgot to mention. Yeah, good weight class. Good fun fights that can be made.
Let me ask you this, Dalton. I know that you kind of was talking about Hillsborough, and for one reason or another we couldn't get it, which to American viewers is the home of a really big football club, but one that's struggling financially at the moment, Sheffield Wednesday. That was obviously a huge box that you wanted to tick, to have that proper homecoming in the stadium and what have you. Is that something that you would be looking at for your next fight after this one? And again, I don't want to go too far ahead of ourselves here. Or would you be looking, as I think Paulie and Chris are alluding to coming back over to America?
My number one at the top of my list is, fighting at Hillsborough. And I think it's got to be a big fight there. It's got to be a big name to draw the attention. So I've got plenty of dance partners, and, get through this, put a big performance. I'd love to have it at Hillsborough next.
Who would be the ideal opponent for you at Hillsborough? You must have given it some thought.
Of course, there's the talks of the Adam Azim fight. Like I said, the biggest name is Shakur up there. I think it's got to bring a big draw. But yeah, there's one fight at a time, and I've got to keep on winning to make these dreams come into reality.
Yeah, and also, as you know, the way you win fights puts the negotiating power on your side as well. You win more emphatically. You win in with in a way that adds to your star power. It adds to your ability to negotiate stronger in matters such as not just financially, but also where you want to have these fights and whatnot. And it'll allow promoters to be able to make these possibilities of reality because your star power continues to rise. But yeah, I actually, for a fight at Hillsborough, yeah, I think an all UK showdown would probably be something that would become more and more massive as Azim is building his name. Your name is being built up more and more as a world champion. It's a solid fight.
Yeah, it's a great fight, but I agree with you, Dalton. I think Adam needs to have a big fight. He needs to have, in order to get in that position, because you have big wins in your record. You are a world champion now, and you said you've done it the hard way. But champ, thank you for taking the time with us. Good luck in the rest of your training. You know, you talk like you want a champion, like we want our champions to talk. You fight like we want our champions to fight. So we appreciate you, and looking forward to your next fight.
My pleasure, boys. Thank you for having me on.
All the best, champ.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Matt,
Bye-bye.
thanks for the time. As always great having you.
Matt, thanks.